I asked you guys on Instagram_watchlife if you believed that there was a production issue with the Pepsi GMT bezel. And overwhelmingly, you guys said yes, there is an issue. But some people said no. So, is there an issue with the Pepsi GMT? I'll look into this very soon, but firstly I want to address what has just happened at Watches and Wonders in 2024. Well, it's been almost a week now since Watches and Wonders started, and the Pepsi GMT has not been discontinued, despite a lot of people thinking that it would be. So surely this means that Rolex will continue to sell the Pepsi GMT. It's on their website, I mean, they must be selling it, right? Well, I've seen barely any proof that Rolex are still producing the Pepsi GMT. I haven't seen many 2023s at all, and if I didn't have this 2024 Pepsi Jubilee in front of me right here, I wouldn't believe that they were producing this watch. I genuinely would say that they have stopped production, but because I have this 2024, it's kind of left me a little bit confused, to be honest with you. But before I talk about this 2024 Pepsi GMT, I quickly want to talk about why Rolex did not discontinue the Pepsi GMT. So I guess you could look at this in two different ways, right? Rolex have either fixed the production issues that they had in their HQ in Switzerland, and so they're going to mass produce this watch once again, and they'll be rolling it out and issuing it out to ADs all across the world. Or they're now in a position where they've slowed down production to the point where there's so few around, and what they're actually addressing here isn't a production issue as such, I'll come on to this in a bit, but more of a logistical customer care issue, let's say. And I say that there's an issue because it's a fact. The Pepsi bezels are breaking. Watchmakers and services are saying that 9 out of 10 Pepsi bezels will break when they try and service the watch. And I've had ADs tell people that I know closely that Rolex are breaking 50% of the Pepsi bezels when they try and service it themselves. So that is an issue. No matter how you look at it, it's an issue with either the production of the bezel because it's not good long term, or it's an issue because, you know, after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you want to service your Pepsi GMT, the watch breaks, so something is wrong. So to deny the fact that there is a Pepsi issue is false, it's incorrect. So, like I said, Rolex could be slowing down the production and the issuing of the GMT Pepsi and primarily focusing on the customer care. The people that already have the watch that are having the issues, it's going to be costly for Rolex. However you look at this is going to cost Rolex a lot of money, and they won't want to keep issuing bezels on watches that are breaking for, you know, the next 10, 20 years. So firstly, Rolex are producing, have been producing, and therefore by fact can produce this bezel, okay? They can do it. So there's no obvious direct issue with this bezel, okay? Like I said earlier, the issue only comes after the fact, when you try and service it, when you try and take the bezel out for a clean or a service, whatever it may be, which indirectly means that there is a production issue. It's just not something that you see straight away. It's quite like with a car recall. So I don't want to use a car brand name, but think of your favorite car brand, and let's say that there's a global recall on that car 2, 3 years later because of brake failures. It's exactly the same thing here. In the beginning, there was no issue. There was no production issue. It was just found out later on. How is this bezel produced, and what might be the reason why it's breaking so often? Well, let's actually look at some official documentation, shall we? It's actually a very interesting process, and I'm going to paraphrase now from Rolex's ceramic colouring patent that they filed years ago, right? So essentially you have a mould of the ceramic ring, and then a composition is injected into that mould, which obviously creates the circular bezel shape. It's left for 20 hours in very high temperatures, and here you have the hard mold generated, or it's created here. And it's interesting, at this point it says the porous green body, or color green, showed open porosity and displayed sufficient mechanical strength to be safely manipulated. Okay, so good signs so far that the bezel is robust enough to go through this procedure. The next step, as you know, it's a split bezel. There's 2 colors, so how is this done? Well, like they say in the document, an adhesive tape is placed over half of the bezel, and then it's dipped into an impregnating solution. And it's at this point where the blue color, the cobalt blue color, which they refer to it as, is then generated, okay? And it's only dipped for a few seconds, and then it's left at an ambient temperature for 24 hours to set and cool. It's then blasted at 1,600 degrees Celsius for another 24 hours, and after that, it's at that point that we see that the non-impregnated part of the bezel displays the red color, and the impregnated part of the bezel shows the blue. The text then goes on to say that the adhesive tape that was used to split the coloring managed to prevent leakage in coloring, like color leakage. So you have this very sharp and distinct color line between the red and the blue. But it's interesting, when you actually do look under a magnifying glass, you can see the sort of, I don't want to say transition, but you can see a little bit of leakage when you look very, very closely. So I know I've been somewhat cryptic about the fact that there's no issue with the process, but there is, because it still breaks. It's kind of like, how do Rolex or the scientists now reverse engineer what is taking place during this process that is leading to the bezel breaking versus other color GMT bezels that aren't breaking? What is it about this? I mean, it's too scientific for me, but there are certain chemical compounds being used in the dipping process, the impregnating process, that, you know, might cause to a slight weakness in the composition used in the mold. Any scientists watching this, please, you know, leave a more scientific review in the comment section below. But fixing this issue, I can't imagine is going to be easy, which is why I keep referring to the fact that Rolex are probably just slowing down the production and the issuing of this watch up into a point where they do decide to discontinue it. Another thing that springs to mind when I talk about this slowing down process, you know, it's been almost 2 years and we've barely seen any of these watches, so perhaps Rolex are working on a new formula for a Pepsi GMT bezel. So maybe this is discontinued and a new Mark version is released, just a new version of the same model. Anyway, on a more positive note, I am very excited, very happy to say that this 2024 Rolex Pepsi GMT is now for sale on _watchlife or at watchlife.org.uk. Go check it out on my website or Instagram. Get in touch however you want. The last thing I want to say here is there might be people doubting that this is a legit watch for whatever reason. I don't know what reason you may have, but I actually do have a copy of the original receipt, and if you want to see that, I can very much prove to you when this was bought, at what time, what day. So if you have any objection to the fact that I'm saying this is a 2024 watch, I would quite happily reject that motion. As always though, I am very much open and interested to hear what you guys think. What the hell is going on here? Because there's no smoke without fire. Something is up. Something is going. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in a Rolex conference room in Geneva to really, really understand what the hell's going on. They are very secretive and they do a great job of keeping everything in-house, all hush-hush. But like I said, something's going on here. If anyone knows anything more than what I've said today, please do get in touch. I would love to know. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.